Up Paleo, where we talk all things nutrition straight up. I'm one of your hosts, Christina Rice. I'm a holistic health coach, nutritional therapy practitioner in training, and the creator of the Paleo Women Lifestyle Program. You can find me on my website and blog, ChristinaRiceWellness.com, as well as on my other podcast, Wellness Realness.
And I'm your other host, Kara Halderman. I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner from Dallas, Texas, NLP master practitioner and mindset coach, and creator of careaboutit.com. In this podcast, we'll be discussing all things paleo, health, and nutrition, along with answering questions straight from you.
If you'd like to submit a question for us to answer on the podcast, head to straightuppaleo.com or email us at straightuppaleo@gmail.com.
Remember our disclaimer. Materials in this podcast are only to be used as advice and are not to be used in place of general medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment.
If you want to support the show, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a rating and a review on iTunes. Enjoy the show! Hey, Kara, what's up?
Hey, just hanging out in my kitchen, watching dinner being made as we speak right now.
What are you making? Tell me.
I talk about this in the interview, but I have this giant grass-fed beef roast that I literally just threw in my Instant Pot with a jar of salsa. Oh. And I don't know.
What kind of salsa? Homemade?
Gosh, no. It's from Trader Joe's, and it's their organic, I don't even know what it was called, but it's really good. Their organic salsa at Trader Joe's is bomb and tastes amazing. And I'm convinced that if you throw any protein in a pressure cooker or slow cooker with a jar of salsa, it's the best and life is made. Oh, I'm also going to make jicama fries.
Oh,
thank you for that.
Yeah,
very excited. So that's been my day. So far, what about you?
Wait, is that salsa spicy? Just wondering. Asking for a friend who's myself.
It's medium. I wouldn't say it's spicy, but it's medium. They have a really good green chili salsa too. That's really not spicy. It's just really flavorful. I am a salsa junkie, and it was Cinco de Mayo the past weekend, and let me just tell you, I feel like a hot ball of garbage from that weekend. Never again.
Oh, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, it's life.
Well, I made celery fries today. Of course, they're so good, which meant I definitely just ate a whole head of celery, so that was good. You can't go wrong with the celery fries.
They taste way too good.
Yeah.
Something has to happen in the oven. Somebody has to be in there doing something to them to make them taste that good, because there's no way.
It's magical.
No way.
But so I leave tomorrow again. I've been home for 3 days. I leave tomorrow again. I'm going to be in the Bay Area as we record this. So I need to pack, and me and packing, we all know, is just a disaster. And I'm putting it off because I procrastinate because I don't want to do it. That means I haven't really been doing anything I needed to get done before I leave, so that sucks. So I wanted to record another podcast today too, but I'm not gonna have time because I have to do other work and pack still. So I don't know why packing's so hard for me. But you know what?
Packing sucks.
The one thing that I do have packed that I always make sure I pack.
SomniFix. We should do some sort of remix.
SomniFix remix.
Honestly, you guys, would you like to see a SomniFix ad at this point with really cool music and gangster rap? Because I would do that.
What if we just drop some beats, and just start rapping about SomniFix?
People would unsubscribe very quickly. I think
they would subscribe very quickly. I think that we should see if we could do that. Did you know that? Okay, fun random fact. So I ran for president of student council when I was in the 7th grade going to 8th grade, and my speech was a rap. So
no, I can't see that.
Yeah, it was pretty epic. Well, actually, I didn't do the rapping part. I did the beat part,
You were a beatboxer.
Yeah, I was doing the beatboxing, and then I had my friend doing the actual rapping part because he was like good at rapping. So yeah.
You ran for student council president and made your friend rap.
Yeah.
Your own.
Well, but then after that I did my actual speech, but it was like just trying to get people pumped up, just trying to.
All right. Well,
live my best life.
We have a professional in the house, so it looks like we're doing a SomniFix.
I'm real
beatboxing.
Deal. Yeah, but you guys, no. So the SomniFix. So I'm bringing home. I'm bringing my own box, obviously, but I'm bringing home like 3 extra boxes because I'm going to force this onto my parents' mouths because I've talked about this before, but they have major snoring issues. And I need to help them breathe through their noses to help with the snoring. But also because they have sleep issues. Like my mom is the type of person who stays up way too late, wakes up way too early, and while she's sleeping, she wakes up like 5 times during the night. Like she does not get a good night's rest. And this, I think, is going to change her life, truly. And she's going to adore me because it can help not only with snoring and drooling, but SomniFix Mouth Tape can help you just stay awake during the night. It helps me stay awake throughout the whole night, and I feel so rested because it keeps you in that parasympathetic, calm, rest and digest state, and then you get a really, really nice, solid, however many hours of sleep. That nice REM. So I'm excited for them to try it.
Good. I really hope that they like it. Even my parents, my stepmom kind of is into it right now. I've forced it upon my boyfriend, and he seems to like it when I make him wear it. And they're not really even into health that much. He's not. So it's great for everyone. If you're just wanting to improve your sleep quality, it's hypoallergenic. You can still breathe through it, so it doesn't feel like you're really suffocating because it has a little mesh on the front, and you're just going to wake up feeling refreshed, like you got even more sleep than you actually freaking did. So it's amazing. And you can use our code SUPSLEEP for 10% off. You can just go to Amazon and purchase it. Use our code SUPSLEEP. It's going to change your life.
Yeah. I also think that it's really great just whenever you're going into any situation with family. If you're like me, I'm going into a few family events this weekend, and it can be a little draining and emotionally exhausting. And I have a big, crazy family. Sometimes you just gotta smack some mouth tape on people.
That's a really good strategy.
just give it to them, be like, hey, I think you should really try this out. It'll help with your breathing patterns and also help you stop talking.
Yeah, new strategy for like your family holidays. If you don't like them, give them the mouth tape. Tell them that you wear it during the day.
Yes.
Then they won't talk to you.
Wait, this is a great Christmas idea.
I know. It really is. Just so like when I gifted a squatty potty for Christmas and everyone got mad at me.
They got mad. Yeah. Well, when I gave that to everybody, they were all excited because you get this huge box, right? And they open it and they're like, what is this? And I'm like, this is going to change your life.
Well, that's what I said. And they're like, no, this is a junk gift. But
then it did. Now my parents are obsessed with their squatty potties and they can't live without it. I'm like, yeah, after you made fun of me, and now it's real. So definitely check out the SomniFix, check out the squatty potty. All of the things to optimize your bodily functions.
It's necessary. Yeah. Okay, but besides all your traveling and whatnot, do you have anything else going on?
Yeah, so I have decided to basically open up my Paleo Women Lifestyle program with a self-study option. So previously it was just, I run the group about every month and a half or so. And the group is awesome because you get to be in the private Facebook group and you get the live video coaching calls with me. And we have this, group accountability and the group support and troubleshooting. And we talk about other topics beyond what's covered just in the modules. But I wanted to open it up to more people. So I'm doing the self-study option, which is basically like, if you sign up for that, it's at a cheaper price than the whole group program piece, but you get the exact same course material. So you'll be going through the same video lecture, audio lecture, PDFs, and you get all of that. You're just doing it on your own and you can go at your own pace. You don't have access to the private Facebook group or the live video calls, but you do get all the other information, and there's a ton of information in there. So I was just trying to open up a cheaper option and get people started. And then if someone signs up for self-study, if later on when I'm running a group, they want to upgrade and join the group, they can just pay the difference and join in. But I'm just hoping that this makes it more accessible to people. Because, I mean, I just think that, like, a lot of people can use this health information, especially us as women. There's just so much bad health info out and about. And I know not everybody can do one-on-one coaching. Not everyone can do group coaching. So I hope that this option helps people out. So that is up and available. And you can go to on my website under programs or bit.ly/paleo women lifestyle, and you can sign up there. So that's kind of my new thing that's happening.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. I think that's a great option, and people should take advantage of it for sure, especially if one of your excuses is that you don't have time.
Yeah, exactly. So
no
you have
excuses.
All of it. And honestly, guys, I mean, I talk to a lot of people about the money stuff. This is the thing. This is like at a steal. Honestly, I see a lot of people putting out programs for really low prices, and people are still kind of questioning the money. But this is the thing, like, you know, when I was in college and seeing nutritionists and doctors, I didn't pay less than $300 per appointment for an hour. And what I got given to me was a meal plan, 1,000-calorie meal plan, and no other advice, you know? Mm-hmm. And I mean, this program itself is cheaper than that a lot, but I want people to understand that, like, if you want the information, you're going to have to put out a little bit of money, and, like, let's keep things in context. Like, I have friends who go out and drop $100 on a dinner on a Friday night, you know? Or
that would be me.
You go to the mall and you buy a few shirts. It's an easy $200, you know? So keeping things in context, and it's just like, how important is your health to you? Also, how much time do you want to save? Because I remember being the person who I literally spent all of my free hours deep into Google and never actually found any real answers, you know? So I just think at the end of the day, this saves you time and money in the long run. Something like this, even if it's not necessarily my program, but just like, I just want to encourage people to invest in their health over other things, I guess.
No, I think that's great. I really do. I think it's actually important to encourage people to pay for this type of information, because like you said, like, you can do a lot of things for free, but you may not get like the piece of information, the customized piece of information that you're going to need just from Googling. You may, but you may not. And it also just really helps to support the industry of health coaching. And it helps support the fact that, like, alternative natural medicine and diet is a big deal. So by paying for these services, you're actually, like people say, voting with your dollar. So it really helps out.
Yeah. And it's just like, the thing is, like, would you go up to your doctor and be like, hey, can you, like, put my leg in a cast for free because I just broke it?
Can you just comp me just this one time?
Yeah, you know, like, sorry, I'm like a poor college student. I can't afford to get my arm stitched up. Can you do it for free? Like, no.
LOL.
You know?
Yes.
So that, but yeah, I'm really excited. And actually, I just announced it today and a few people already signed up. So I think that it's going well already.
Yay.
So excited about that. Our other thing that we want to remind you guys about is our retreat.
And we will definitely be rapping there. So if you want to hear our rapping.
In the flesh. Oh my God. That will be amazing. So we're having our Straight Up Paleo retreat in Austin, Texas in August, the 10th through the 12th. And it will be a weekend filled with workshops. We'll be talking about nutrition, mindset, body image. We're going to do workouts. We're going to be working out at On-It facilities. We're going to do some walks and hikes. We're going to go to picnic. We're going to be cooking delicious food. You're going to get some killer goodie bags with all of our favorite products, including SomniFix, of course. Yeah, it's going to be just an awesome time. You'll get to know each other. We'll do a live podcast. You'll get to know us. You can do one-on-ones with us if you want. So lots of options there. And if you want all the details, go to bit.ly/SUP RETREAT 2018 and you can get your tickets, and it's going to be a blast. I'm super pumped.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. And like I kind of mentioned earlier, I just keep receiving more and more packages at my house for these goodie bags. And that you guys are going to get some pretty epic goodie bags. And I'm just pumped about it. Like, I want to make myself one because they're so freaking cool. So you guys are going to love it. Like, I'm so excited to meet you guys. So if you want to do that, like we said, go to that link, bit.ly/ I don't know why I can never remember it. What is it?
It's SUP RETREAT 2018.
That's right. 2018, because that is the year that we're in.
Yes, exactly. So we would love to see you there. It'll be a nice group, intimate group, and so much fun. I get ready to eat all the food. You know, people always, whenever I go on trips, people always are like, I wish I could travel with you because you eat the best food. And I'm like, now's your time. Now's your time to come and eat like a queen. We eat like queens. So
we do, and Kelly will be there, who's basically our private chef for the weekend.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She's in culinary school now, or about to be. So we're going to have some really great food. So yes, please go look at the link. It's also in my bio on Instagram, so you can go there.
Yeah, it's in mine too. It's all over the place. So we're not hard to find, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have. You have any other updates?
My update kind of just goes hand in hand with our amazing guest this week, who is Michelle Hoover, and she is the creator of the blog Unbound Wellness. She's pretty popular in the AIP, Hashimoto's type of space. And even if you don't like eat AIP and have Hashimoto's, she just has freaking great recipes on her blog. She's a really great recipe developer, has some really great blog posts on gut healing. And she also has a podcast called Unbound Healing with her co-host Anne Garland, who's I think grass-fed salsa on Instagram. But she's truly a wealth of knowledge, and we love her because not only is she extremely smart, but like Christina has said many times, she's very humble and just extremely personable, and I don't think she understands the impact of what she's done on other people. And we are just really, really excited to interview her today. So I think you guys are going to love it. We pretty much cover everything from her health story to how to kind of go about Hashimoto's. She even had issues with heavy metals that really played into a lot of her Hashimoto's issues. And we talk about the importance of that, the importance of managing your stress, your thoughts, your beliefs, you name it. We cover it, essentially.
Yes, we talk about everything, and she is just a wealth of knowledge. I love just how down to earth and real she is. She's also just a great friend. I love hanging out with her. So give Michelle some love. I think you guys are gonna love this episode. A lot of fun information, and very inspiring woman she is. I adore her. So
yes. And before we cut over to the interview, well, if you like this interview and you're in the Texas area, anywhere around Dallas, Michelle and I are actually putting on some in-person workshops in Dallas at Brewed and Pressed, which if you don't follow me, or if you do follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I live there and drink a lot of their beverages and eat a lot of their raw truffles because they're amazing. But we're going to be doing 3 workshops. The first one is completely free. I believe it's the first weekend of June. It's on a Sunday. It's at 8 p.m. and it's going to be all about healing with food. We're going to be talking about healing diets and pretty much everything in between there. Then we're going to be doing a gut healing workshop and an adrenal and stress response workshop. It's going to be really casual, podcast style. We've got limited spots available just because it's kind of a small venue. I don't know how many people they can fit in there. And we've had a lot of people sign up already. So it's going to be amazing. And I'm very excited to meet everyone local to the DTX type of area. So you can kind of go to the link in my Instagram and click that in my bio, and you can reserve your spot. You do need to reserve your spot for it. So anyways, if you like this interview with Michelle and want to meet us, please do that. But other than that, you guys just enjoy this interview with Michelle. Hey, Michelle, what's happening?
Nothing much. How are you, ladies?
Freaking awesome. Having a rad day. Just did a workout, put some food in the Instant Pot. You know, whenever you put food in the Instant Pot, oh yeah, Christina, I got an Instant Pot. I think I told you that.
Yeah, you told me.
You know it's an amazing day.
You didn't have one until now?
I know,
No.
right?
No, I'm
Really?
always behind the trend, dude. No, my dad get this. My dad gets an Instant Pot after I tell him about the Instant Pot and saying how much I wanted one. So he buys one, of course, and then he uses it and it breaks on him, or not breaks, but it keeps giving him like this burnt signal. It keeps saying burnt for like no reason, and nothing is burnt. And he's like, I hate this thing. You can have it. And then I get it. And it doesn't give me any problems. It never says burnt. So I'm like, thank you. This was a gift from the universe. I manifested this.
Yeah. Maybe it's the wiring in his house.
I never thought about that. But
yeah,
hey,
it's like the outlet he's using or something.
I know. Random tangent about the Instant Pot. I'm sure you have tons and tons of recipes about that. But we're extremely excited to have you on the show. If y'all don't know, Michelle is an amazing like AIP, I guess, paleo-ish, amazing like food blogger and one of our personal friends, and we're pretty much obsessed with her. But for people who don't know who you are, Michelle, who are you?
First, thank you for all the kind words. I am blushing. You're so sweet. I love both of you guys. So I'm Michelle Hoover, and I am also an NTP, just like both Christina and Kara. And I mostly do, recipe blogging. So I am mostly a blogger where I do recipe development that is AIP, paleo recipes. But since I'm an NTP and I got into this space through my own struggles with health and autoimmunity, I do also blog and write about just kind of gut health and living well with Hashimoto's and autoimmunity. So kind of both health and recipes. And yeah, so that's the stuff that I put out into the world.
And you have a podcast.
Yeah. And I feel like there's so many things I could just like sit here and talk about. I also have a podcast with my friend Anne. So it's the Unbound Healing podcast, and it's kind of your podcast's twin. Where it's a pretty similar, like where our podcasts are pretty similar. Our audience is just kind of the autoimmune chronic illness crowd. So that's usually the questions that we get are all surrounding autoimmunity. That's a lot of the topics that we talk about. And I have ebooks and a course and all of that stuff, but I just kind of love my life here on the internet and in the nutrition world.
I love that. You do so much, and I love everything that you put out there, and you're way too humble. I always say that. Like, all the content you put out is incredible, and I'm obsessed with all of your recipes. So, shout out to you for being an incredible recipe developer.
Thank you so much.
Yes, but let's, like, start off with the whole... you got into this because of your health journey. And where does your health journey begin? Tell us the story.
I feel like I can back it up as far as when I was a kid. I feel like we all can, that I was a picky eater, and I had lots of doctors just tell me, oh, she's a picky eater. She just doesn't really have any health problems. She just won't eat anything other than Wendy's. When in reality, I had a lot of digestive issues pretty much my whole life. I would always tell my mom that I was dizzy, and she would tell me, you don't know what dizzy means. Like, I don't think that you're understanding what that means. And I meant I was nauseous. Like, I was constantly nauseated. I always had a stomach ache. I always really could never sleep. And I remember I just would not eat any animal protein at all. Pretty much all I would eat was chicken nuggets, which is foreshadowing to the recipes I put out now. But I am very well versed in the art of chicken nuggets, but that's all I would eat as a kid. I remember I once had a doctor tell me, well, you don't really need animal protein or anything like that to get protein from food anyway. All you need to do is just have enough peanuts, like of the size of the palm of your hand, and that's enough protein for the day.
Oh my God.
I have no idea where that I don't know. But So that's the kind of information that I was getting, that, processed food was okay and that peanuts were more than enough protein than what you needed for the day. So I grew up that way, and I had lots of body image issues like a lot of teen girls do. And so my diet just got worse as a reflection of the way that I wanted to look. I started over exercising, and it got to when I was about 16, 17, where I started having heart palpitations. And it was pretty scary. As a 17-year-old, having never felt that before, you're just sitting watching TV and all of a sudden your heart starts racing. And I told my parents about it, and they said, "Oh, it's a heart palpitation. That's probably fine, but just, keep an eye on it. If it happens again, we'll do something about it." So they kept happening. And one day I was working at my part-time job after high school, and I fainted. I just fell over. It was like this faint/panic attack because I was panicking because I was fainting. And it was very evident at that point that something was going on. So I went for several months with it just kind of getting worse and worse. I was constantly getting those palpitations, those fainting spells. I started losing weight. I started getting really hungry and losing tons of weight. But everything still hurt my stomach, and my cycle stopped. All these sorts of things happened. So I went to every specialist in the DFW area. I went everywhere. I was going to chiropractors and cardiologists and just all over the place to try to figure out what was wrong with me. And in the beginning, when I first went to my pediatrician, because I was 16, 17, they told me, "Oh, it's probably that you just eat too much chocolate or drink too much coffee. You're fine." They're just trying to write me off. And I told them, I don't really drink coffee. I don't have energy drinks. That's not why this is happening. That's not what's going on. So they tested my thyroid and it came back normal. But I kept going to these specialists, and they were saying, "It really sounds like it's probably your thyroid." I told them the pediatrician tested it. They didn't do anything. And it was about 9 months later, and I was missing so much school, and I was just having to stop going to the extracurricular activities I did, had to stop going to my after-school job. I was just getting worse and worse and worse, and it was scary, and it just felt like I was just constantly depressed and anxious and not feeling too great, the way that a lot of women feel. And eventually I went back to the pediatrician, and they tested my thyroid again, and my TSH, so the very base level, what most doctors are testing you for your thyroid, that does not always indicate something if you have autoimmune issues, that finally jumped. That number went out of normal range. So that was enough for them to say, "Okay, there is something wrong with your thyroid. Let's send you to a pediatric endocrinologist." So I went there, and they did a full panel, and that's when it came back, "Hey, you have Hashimoto's." And I had no idea what that meant in the beginning. And I thought that I was just this unicorn, that no girls my age had this, that this was this super rare thing. Women only got it post-menopause. And I thought that this was some rare disease that nobody had ever heard of. So they told me, just take this levothyroxine, Synthroid, whatever, and that's it. That's all you need to do. And there's no other way you could deal with it. So I started taking the medication, and I just kind of swung the other way. I started gaining weight, started with anxiety, depression, hair falling out, all of this. And I went into college kind of learning about needing to go gluten-free and dabbling in it a little bit, but I was just sleeping 18 hours a day. I would go to class, and that was a few hours out of my day. And then I would come back to my apartment on campus. I would do homework and then just fall asleep. I would just sleep all day, all night. And then I would wake up feeling totally exhausted the next day. And I was just so fed up. And I remember I had one experience where I was trying to go to the gym and trying to just like feel physically better. And I was sitting on some machine with like really, really lightweight, like probably like 5 pounds or something. And I was trying to move it and I just physically could not. And I was just sitting in this machine, you know, like 20 years old, like my eyes tearing up. I'm like, what is wrong with me? Like, why am I so tired? Like, I don't want to live like this anymore. And I called my mom and I was like, I can't do this. I need to try something else. So I found this chiropractor through a family friend, and she introduced me to this idea of leaky gut, which I had no idea what that was. And we ran some tests, actually did an IgG test in the beginning, and it came back like off the charts. All of my labs were crazy. So it was kind of validating in the beginning because I had so many doctors telling me that I had nothing wrong with me. And that was my biggest fear when I went to the doctor, that it was going to come back like, you don't have anything wrong with you. And it came back, they're like, no, you're actually really bad. So like, that's actually good news at this point, because now I know I can do something about it. I'm sure you guys get it. So I basically went on, and this is 7 years ago at this point, I went on basically an AIP type diet before I even knew that the autoimmune protocol existed. I was mostly grain-free, all nightshade-free, low on nuts and seeds and dairy and all that stuff. And I felt way better overnight, but that only lasted for, a couple months. And then I started creeping back into like, oh, let me just eat gluten once a week. Like, it's fine if I just have like a Three Musketeers, like once every other day, I started creeping back into that. And part of the reason was I felt I had a lot of people in my life and myself as well, just telling me that, well, I can't have a fun life and I can't enjoy myself unless I am eating that pizza and that Three Musketeers. Like, I felt so bad for myself whenever anybody saw me at a party not eating the pizza or not eating the birthday cake or the wedding cake. Everybody would tell me, oh, poor you, poor you, poor you. And I would internalize that and say, poor me, poor me. Like, I shouldn't be like poor, sad me without the cake. Like, I should eat the cake, even though I would go and feel physically horrible from that. So it would be like this slight mental boost for like 2 minutes to be a week of feeling awful. And it wasn't until I had another health flare when my husband and I got married. So this was about 4 years ago, about a year before I started the blog, more or less. And my Hashimoto's came back full force. It was, my antibodies were high again, and I started having this hormonal flare. So I had these hemorrhagic ovarian cysts, and I just kind of had this big crash again. And I looked back at it and I was like, okay, I need to take this seriously. Like, what I did before, this worked for me. How can I make it work better and more long-term? And I literally just started going on to Pinterest and started looking up like, okay, like what are some fun nightshade-free recipes? Like, do these things even exist? And that's when I started to really tap into the paleo and the AIP communities online. And I saw all these people having fun and all these, beautiful food photos of nightshade-free, grain-free, dairy-free things. And I was like, oh my gosh, this can be fun. Like, here's all these people out there thriving, feeling great, and still eating great food. Like, why can't I do this? Like, I can do this. Like, I don't have to feel sorry for myself. So when I made that mental shift, that was one of the biggest things that really helped me stick to this more modified AIP lifestyle that I live now. So I'm not, the autoimmune protocol is just like a 30-day kind of elimination diet, 30 to plus day elimination diet that's not meant to last forever. It's kind of just meant to heal. I did a lot more to heal than just that, but I'm not on that 100% now, but I still follow it as a template and I still serve that community. But there's more that I did to heal, of course, but that's kind of my story.
As I'm listening to this, it's actually crazy. I did not know how similar our stories are, even though we have differing health issues, I'm listening to this. I'm like, wow, I relate on 5 million levels right now. It's absolutely ridiculous. Your whole childhood basically sounds like mine. And the whole like college thing sounds like mine, being fatigued all the time. It's absolutely insane. So I was having flashbacks the whole entire time. And this just brought up so many little nuggets and so many little points that I kind of wanted to like dissect throughout this whole story.
Yeah.
The first thing that I wanted to touch on is you mentioned that, and you've been pretty open about like the body image issues too, that you've really struggled with Hashimoto's. If people don't know, especially with your case, you have the tendency to gain weight, but if you, like you said, you swung to the other side and you became more like hyperthyroid, you can really lose weight a lot. But you said that you struggled with body image issues even as a little girl. And where do you think that the body image issues came from in the first place?
I mean, it comes from just, honestly, for all of us, it's kind of everywhere. I grew up in just kind of this environment where it was like, you need to be thin to be, I don't want to say worthy, but just kind of accepted, you know, like, I mean, my family is just not like, I don't come from a family of like just naturally thin people. Like, we're Italian, we like pizza. Like I have to actually make the conscious decision, you know, if I am like, quote, right now when I eat well, like my body is just kind of like normal. But when I was eating processed food all the time, like I would definitely lean towards having like these swings. And I mean, that was mostly because my body was so inflamed. So I just always had issues when I was a kid of just constantly, you know, gaining weight. And I would go to the doctor and they would just say like, oh, you need to really lose weight. Like, you're in the higher quartile. And I was like, okay, well, I can't eat vegetables. Like, I can't eat anything but this. Like, everything makes me gag. Everything makes me feel horrible. So, and they were like, well, you're just a picky, you know. So I feel like a lot of it just came from the fact that I was born as just not a super healthy, perfect human. None of us are. And then just like that inflammation that I struggled with all the time. But it's all around us. Like, everybody, like, it's so hard for women and girls today to not have issues from the get-go, you know?
Right. And how did having Hashimoto's and seeing your body change so much, did that really amplify the body image issues?
Oh, yeah. Because in the beginning, I was never really like, people would look at me and to say like, oh, like, you're so skinny, like, you're so thin. Like, I was always like a normal sized person, but I didn't get that. And just because I loved TV shows like America's Next Top Model, and I loved reading magazines, and I love photography. So I saw like a lot of, you know, just like, this is the standard. So I craved that, like so many people, just with this warped mind of like, okay, well, this is the ideal body standard. And, you know, if you're not naturally that body standard, like, you need to force your natural body into like this perfect little Barbie size. And then when I got Hashimoto's, in the beginning, I lost a bunch of weight. So I all of a sudden became this thin girl that, you know, just this subconscious mind that was really broken and just kind of brainwashed. Like, that girl had always wanted to be. Like, I always wanted to be the one that people would call me thin. And people called me thin every single day. I swear. Mm-hmm. People always found a way to tell me, like, you're so skinny, like, you can eat as much as you want. Like, hey, tiny, like, hey, skinny. Constantly, everybody was calling me skinny. And I mean, when we back up, that's a lot of why everybody has these body image issues, because half of the girls in the world are being told like, skinny, 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 you're so pretty, you're so pretty. And the other ones aren't hearing it. So I started, and I craved to hear that. And I started becoming that girl that heard it. And it felt good because I was always like that little girl that wanted to hear it. And I started hearing that, you know, when I was 17, 18, I was like, hey, I want to hear this. And it was all superficial because that was really unhealthy weight loss. Like, I lost all this weight, but like my heart was palpitating, my hair was falling out. Like, this wasn't healthy. So then I put that weight back on. And I've gone through this cycle multiple times. This was not just when I was 17. Like this happened even just a couple of years ago where around my wedding, I lost a lot of weight. And then I gained it back, just kind of from swings. And all of a sudden those comments stopped, that people were not calling me skinny every day. And,
and that hurts.
It hurts. And it's this, and to me, it's like I backed up eventually of thinking like, well, why were they just obsessing over like, hey, you're 10 pounds lighter in the first place? Like, who cares if I'm 10 pounds lighter? Like, I'm the exact same person, plus or minus 10 pounds. Like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
So what I had to learn eventually, even just a couple of years ago, I finally came to the realization of, it's them and the way that society has taught them to talk about other people. It doesn't have anything to do with me because I'm the same person plus or minus 10 or 20 pounds. It's them that are reading the magazines. And I mean, it's all of us that are reading the magazines and watching TV shows and having this desire to be this certain way. And we're taught to talk this certain way. And, I was letting that wreck my life, but, you can't do that.
Besides people just like not making comments about you being thin anymore, did anyone make comments about you gaining weight? Specifically like, oh, it looks like you put on weight?
I did get a little bit of that. The one that I got that really stuck with me though, and that was actually probably the biggest game changer for me was, I had a friend that I had worked with who her daughter had Graves' disease. So Graves' disease is another autoimmune disease of the thyroid where you are just fully hyperthyroid. And her daughter was always struggling with being thin and, she couldn't gain any weight and it was a symptom of her feeling bad. And then this friend came to me and said like, oh my gosh, you look so great. Like you put on some weight. And like that made me realize like, oh my gosh, like this person doesn't have this autoimmune disease and she's understanding like, no, me putting on weight was a good thing because I got out of this flare and that there's a ton of other people out there that understand this. Like not everybody is in this warped mindset of like skinny is always good. Like there are other people that get it. And that's what really helped me just kind of empower me to go online and kind of share that story because it's resonated with so many other people, the feeling of kind of like that unhealthy weight gain and loss. So that was probably the most powerful one.
Yeah. I think it's hard because we are so, as a society, so wrapped up in weight and we have to switch our thinking and start focusing on actual health. But that's just so contradictory to everything we've been taught growing up, and like sure. Our weight's fluctuating as our health is fluctuating. And instead of focusing on our actual health, we get so just like focused in on the weight gain or the weight loss. And so it's definitely, I think it's very complicated emotionally, especially when you're dealing with it at a younger age. Like when you're just you have this heightened awareness of how you look and everybody's putting their judgments on you,
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure.
I want to talk a bit more about like Hashimoto's and kind of like back it up for people. Like, so you have, like, what do you think are the most important things to do to address it? Like, so, say someone finds out today they have Hashimoto's. What do they need to do?
That's a great question. So I don't know if I said it earlier, but Hashimoto's, it is an autoimmune disease of the thyroid. So it's not your thyroid is broken. It's your immune system has started turning on your thyroid and the thyroid is taking the hit. So that's how you want to start thinking about it in the first place, is that you need to address what's going on with the thyroid, but you need to think about the inflammation and the autoimmune reaction that's causing the issue. So very first and foremost, getting a doctor on your team that gets that and that can support you and that can get you the functional testing that you need, I think is really important in the beginning when you're trying to really just learn about this stuff, because a lot of people that come into figuring out they have Hashimoto's, they do have a lot of tissue damage to their thyroid, or they are experiencing tissue damage kind of like as they go. And your thyroid's really essential. So people ask me all the time, like, hey, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's and my doctor gave me a prescription for thyroid medication. Like, can I just not take it? No, it doesn't work that way. Your thyroid's really essential, and medication is a healing tool in the beginning to help that degradation of the thyroid tissue stop. There are more holistic options for medication, so that's something to talk to your doctor about, but I'm definitely not anti-thyroid medication. I talk about that on my blog, but just getting a doctor that understands that, and then looking at the root causes of, okay, why is this autoimmune reaction happening? And most autoimmunity can be broken down into 3 things. First is a genetic susceptibility, which you can only do so much about your genes. So if you see other people in your family that have some sort of autoimmune disease that could put you at risk for autoimmunity. The next one is stress triggers. So that could be anything from a emotional event in your life. So the loss of a job or a relationship or a death in the family, or even a physical stress. Like I've heard people, that'll run a marathon and then they'll wind up, that'll be the trigger to the autoimmunity, like all of that training that just really pushed their body way too far. Or surgery or pregnancy is another big one. Some kind of stress, and thinking about stress in a broad term because it's both emotional and physical. And then the third one, which is one of my favorites to talk about, is the health of the gut. So our gut, talk about it a lot in this world, talks about it on this podcast, the gut's important. And what starts to cause that autoimmune reaction is our gut lining is really susceptible to being permeable. Our gut is not always super strong in the society that we have, where we're constantly stressed out. We're not producing enough stomach acid. We're eating inflammatory foods. So we start to get this intestinal permeability, and it's essentially the lining of our intestines opening up, and nutrients and foods within our gut that are supposed to stay in there start coming out into our body. So it's not supposed to be there, right? And our body starts attacking that as if it were a foreign invader. So that's the body starting to attack oneself. Think about every time you're eating food, it's several times a day. Like this is some constant inflammation that starts going on. And with Hashimoto's specifically, gluten proteins look very similar to the protein in the thyroid. So generally, people are eating a lot of gluten or dairy or a lot of these inflammatory foods that a paleo diet would take out, and it looks like tissue in the body. So I was eating gluten literally every single meal. Every snack was like goldfish crackers and Oreos. Like there was a lot of gluten going in my body, and my body was attacking it. And then it was like, oh, like this thyroid looks like gluten too. Like this isn't supposed to be here either. And that started attacking it. So addressing Hashimoto's starts backing up and looking at all of those things. So the gut, the stress, and then all of the downfall that comes from all of those issues. So a lot of people deal with chronic infections like Epstein-Barr and Candida. And when you open up like this wound of chronic stress and gut issues, it just is this huge can of worms that we're all of a sudden dealing with all of these other issues. And people with Hashimoto's, and literally every person ever, continues to work on these issues throughout their entire life. So if you just got diagnosed with Hashimoto's, you start at the beginning, at the ground level, but as time goes, there's always going to be something to work on. But that doesn't mean you're not getting better, but we always continue to work on things. But for me, working on the gut and working on the stress in the beginning, when I really started to take that seriously, I went from being a person that was constantly experiencing Hashimoto's symptoms to now I don't. So there's a lot that you can do.
So with the gut, I know you've done a lot, like with AIP and whatnot. Do you feel like that was a major aspect in healing your gut, or did you have to do more on top of that?
I did a lot. That was huge. The AIP was huge because I did more foods than just what was on AIP. I had other things that were bothering me as well. But another really big one that obviously supplementing, I went to a doctor and I figured out, okay, what minerals am I deficient in? What is my stool testing? What's my blood work saying? What's my hair mineral? And, all of that stuff. But really working on my digestion was a piece that I missed for years. I had really bad just indigestion. Like I said, I was told my mom I was dizzy. I was nauseous because I wasn't digesting fat. I always had low stomach acid. So I was eating, better food. So I started eating the bone broth and just vegetables and things like that. But I was still not absorbing very well because my digestion was so bad. So I would say that general advice for people looking at your digestion along with your diet and then figuring out, okay, what else is there for you personally? But so many people miss the digestion piece.
I'm curious. So your doctor recommended, you said you didn't realize it was an AIP style, but it was pretty similar to AIP. Mm-hmm. Did you before that just try regular paleo?
I actually didn't. So it's funny. It's really funny looking back. I did CrossFit somewhere around when I started doing this, so I had tried gluten-free before. I knew that, but everybody in my CrossFit gym was doing paleo and I made fun of it so much. I thought it was so stupid. Because at that point, the marketing of paleo was still very new and everybody was just saying the caveman diet. That's what they were talking about. I was that's so, you're not eating like a caveman. Cavemen didn't go to Costco and get huge things of bacon. So I was looking at it with that very early, CrossFit style paleo. So I just thought it was so dumb. I did not get it. And then once I actually started learning about no, it's this primal ancestral, just eating non-processed foods and foods that don't irritate the gut. I was oh, now I get it. But it really took me, I never did just straight up, I almost said straight up paleo.
Yeah.
But
oh my gosh.
Really good name drop. I never did just that. I had went right into the nightshade free type and the more AIP style paleo. And that's because, these food intolerance tests are really controversial. And I don't think that mine was 100% because when I did it, it came back that I could have dairy and corn. And I know for sure that I can't have these things, but it did come back. My food intolerance test initially, and the ones that I'd taken in the past, you look at it and it's basically an AIP template. So I was reacting to the seeds and the nightshades and the grains and most of the dairy and things like that. So that was actually my intro to AIP.
Okay.
We've talked about this so many times, I feel with the whole nightshade type issue, but I'm so curious, how do people symptomatically find out if they have issues with nightshades? I know everybody is different and now there's this whole thing about lectins and whatnot, but do you think all people with autoimmune disease need to avoid nightshades?
I think so. First, figuring out one of the telltale signs of nightshade issues is usually joint pain. That's what people will notice. And I would say that I don't know if I had joint pain, but I definitely had muscle weakness. I would feel it would be hard to walk when I had nightshades. And I would get like really sweaty. Like I would just constantly feel flushed and really fatigued. So again, everybody's different, but one of the telltale things is if you're having a lot of joint issues, a lot of muscle weakness, that's where that inflammation manifests. But does everybody with Hashimoto's with autoimmunity have nightshade issues? No. I think that it's really helpful in the beginning to eliminate them and let your body, let any inflammation calm down and figure out if you do have an issue. But most people can be totally fine. So my podcast partner, Anne, she can pretty much have nightshades and be fine with it. I don't know if there's any nightshades that are particularly offensive to her, but she really can't have nuts. Like she really can't have almonds. Whereas for me, I'm the other way around. Like I can eat almonds and things like that, but I cannot have nightshades. So everybody's different. There's a lot of people out there that were formerly, strict elimination AIP that have nightshades now. That's just my issue.
I'm curious, how long do you usually recommend people take out the nightshades or try AIP for before they start adding things back in?
Yeah, so I would say for most people, the nightshades, so I think it's like the potatoes and things like that are later in the reintroduction phase. So you're doing AIP for at least like 90 days at that point. So 30 days is the base recommendation for doing AIP, but for most people, I would say 30 to 90.
Okay.
And that's about how long I did it. I jumped into reintroductions pretty quick, and there's some foods that I just never really had issues with, and then there's others that I've just never been able to reintroduce. So
I'm curious because I always think it's so interesting because, like we said, everyone is so different. Like, what foods don't work for you? Like, what foods do you have to not consume?
Yeah, permanently. The nightshades for sure. Like, I don't think I'll ever be able to have peppers and potatoes again, which sucks because I love those foods, but it's fine. You find new things. I really don't do well with corn. I've been able to reintroduce rice and quinoa and things like that. So I'll have that in moderation. And I can even get gluten in a restaurant and it won't feel bad for me as corn does. Like corn kills
That's
me.
crazy.
Yeah. I had this like air popped popcorn. I went to the farmer's market and I got like this local corn, like non-GMO, and I did it with ghee, and it was everything that I should have done. And I had just a little bit and I was like, I'm dying. So corn really doesn't like me. Those are some of the big ones for me. I'm allergic to a lot of nuts, so that's just not going to happen. But yeah, I would say, and then a lot of just the general like paleo type things of I definitely cannot do soybean oil, canola oil. That'll really knock me out. And I could probably get away, like if I went to a restaurant and had non-grass-fed burger or something like that, I'd probably be okay. But conventional poultry, like conventional chicken, makes me feel so sick. Chicken is really high in omega-6 when it is not properly raised. So I have to be really snooty about buying pastured chicken all the time.
So you're just super do you feel like you're pretty sensitive to like your environment and the foods that you eat?
Oh yeah. And even more so after you really start to get a hold on what's going on with your body,
And this is kind of switching topics a little bit, but do you think a lot of the sensitivity that you deal with also comes from, I know you had / maybe have heavy metal issues as well, heavy metal toxicity. When did you find out about that?
Yeah. So it's hard to say how long I had it. And that's the question that everybody always has with any sort of chronic illness or toxicity or infection or something is like, how did you get it? And I don't really fully know.
With heavy metals, it's like impossible to know how you fully got it unless you worked in a factory or something or around an area that had some sort of contamination. It's like everyday life.
Oh yeah. You know? Unless you're like legitimately like fire gilding, like you don't know if you're going to have mercury poisoning. Like you don't know what it came from, but I did have.
You ate a lot of tuna though, didn't you?
I did eat a lot of tuna. So I'm thinking that that's what it was. But my mom also had mercury amalgams, and my brother and my mom have a lot of the same issues that I do. So I kind of think that probably started it, and then the tuna made it worse for sure. So I got a hair mineral analysis, and it's funny because I went to this new, more holistically minded doctor, and she gave me all of these tests. So she gave me like a stool test and all this blood work and an adrenal test and then a heavy metal test. And I was like, oh, this was all so expensive. Like, I think I'm just going to return the hair mineral analysis. And I did it all, and none of it was all super telling. Like, it all kind of said things I already knew. And then I figured I might as well do the hair mineral analysis. And it came back that I was like crazy mercury toxic. I was like, oh, how long has that been going on? And that mercury is a big thing. You can have mercury kind of like in your thyroid as well. And it can mess up your gut. Wow. It can have candida-ish. Candida can feed on mercury. So I was like, ooh, that's probably something that I need to address.
I don't think people understand how big of a deal. Like, I think people really focus on like gut health and adrenal health and like stress. And I think that's great. And those are always great places to start. But I don't think people understand how big of a deal it is when you have heavy metal toxicity. So I'd love for you to kind of go into that just a little bit. Like, how can that really throw everything off?
I mean, so we always talk about balance in the body, and mineral balance is a big one. And in the Nutritional Therapy Association, like that's one of like the way that we're trained as NTPs, that's one of the base things that needs to be in balance in the body to be a healthy person is to have mineral balance. So that balances out your ability to able to like walk around to be a healthy person and have enough stomach acid and digest your nutrients. So mineral balance is really, really important. But when we have metals in the body, it can really throw off that mineral balance first and foremost. Like there's so many people out there that just get like their magnesium. Everybody's obsessed with taking magnesium right now. And they're like, I need more magnesium. I need more of this. And like they know that they're like low in potassium or low in calcium or low in zinc. And they just like start layering that on, and they don't realize that, well, maybe it's because you have heavy metal issues that's throwing off the rest of your minerals. And the heavy metals can basically just weigh down organs in your body. Like usually the metals will kind of collect in one area. So people could get mercury kind of just like collected in their kidneys, or most dangerously, like in your brain. That's a huge one that you really have to be afraid of. So it weighs down just your organs. So a lot of people, just do this base level, like, yeah, I'm just going to put this magnesium on my feet, or I'm going to just start eating more liver, and maybe that'll help my liver health. But it's probably, the numbers are staggering, like how many people have heavy metal issues and don't realize it. And that's not to scare anybody. I completely changed my life with my Hashimoto's before I ever realized I had heavy metal issues. But there were lingering issues and a lot of potential issues going into, thinking about in the future wanting to have kids, of being like, well, I don't want to have to pass this on to my kids.
Yeah. And it's not something you can just straight up like, okay, I have heavy metals, I'm going to do this intense detox right now, and it's all just going to come out of my body kind of thing. No. And I know you have a very long experience with that. So like, how long did it take you to detox?
Yeah. So our detox pathways, like all have to be open in order to actually do a detox. And the average person, you're just going to walk up to them, like their detox pathways are not open. They're not digesting well, they're kind of constipated, or they don't really sweat a lot, or they have some sort of genetic mutation, or they're putting a bunch of toxic makeup on their skin that they're just not detoxing through their skin. So people will try to do these detoxes and it doesn't pass through the body. It just kind of gets thrown around in the body. So that's a big concern with heavy metal detox, is that you try to do a detox and let's say like all of the mercury is just like chilling in your gut or your thyroid, and then you throw it around and it gets in your brain. That is really not what you want to happen. Like that, people die doing that. I've heard of people, wind up in the hospital with kidney failure, and it is really, really dangerous to do that on your own. So what I did is I was working with my doctor who figured it out, and, we figured out my MTHFR status. I kind of knew that going into it, but she basically put me on a protocol to do a pre-tox before I did a detox, because she said, you're not like, we can't really do this if you're still having gut health issues, you still have adrenal issues, like you're going to knock if you still have like really low minerals, like we need to balance some of this stuff out. So the stuff that I did with her in the beginning, I did infrared sauna, which some people love. I hate it. Probably because I was doing it in the summer in Texas where it was already like 1 billion degrees outside.
Oh, no.
So it was just
so hot.
It was bad. So I did infrared sauna. I did dry brushing. I did a lot of hot yoga. And I did, if you work with a holistic doctor and you're working on metal detox, one that you want to talk to them about, a good company, is called Quicksilver Scientific. They have really great supplements, and I did one of it was like a liver strengthening sort of protocol that I did for, I think, 60 days, where I just took a lot of supplements to help my liver and gallbladder to start to work better, to actually be able to do a detox. So, and then, like Christina said, I stopped eating pretty much every kind of fish except for sardines and salmon, which are a lot lower in mercury. So that's one of the main things in detox, is take out all of the known offenders. Just don't keep dumping on your body. And I did that. It was about a year to where I was just doing that stuff, working up to it. And then I did my test again, and my mercury went significantly down. So I wound up not having to do like an extreme detox. I just kind of kept doing what I was doing, and we'll test it again for sure. But yeah, it took a year just to do the pre-tox.
I have a question. Yeah. So it's like, I think this is where it gets tricky though, because we want to make sure that our detoxification pathways are open before we do like a heavy metal detox. But like, what if they are not open because of the heavy metals?
Because of the metal.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's hard. That is really hard. And that's honestly the thing that, I know the Quicksilver Scientific, like that's how they had kind of designed those supplements to kind of like just strengthen the organs and the pathways on their own enough to where you could detox. But I never got to that point. And I'm not trained in metal detox.
Yeah.
So that would be the kind of thing that you would have to work with a doctor of like, okay, what's the alternative pathway? That's why my doctor kind of did like the gentle stuff in the beginning and then really cutting out the offender. I think that's a really big thing with metals is, if you're aluminum toxic or mercury toxic, like taking out the aluminum foil, taking out the fish, the deodorant, like taking those things away. And most people see their levels go way, way down just from that, just cutting the exposure.
Yeah. Can you talk about castor oil packs?
Yeah, I love castor oil packs. So That's another thing that I did and I continue to do. And I did it before I realized that I had that, because it's so great for your liver health, for your gallbladder health. If you know that you have issues digesting fats, if you have ovarian cysts, if you have digestive issues, castor oil packs. Castor oil itself is really great for stimulating the flow of like liquids within the body when you use it topically. I don't recommend using it internally. It could have some bad side effects or just some side effects you don't want. But if you put it on your skin, it can get things moving. So if you're putting it over your liver and your gallbladder, like that's a big organ of detoxification. And a lot of the time those, the bile and everything, all those gross liquids going on in your gallbladder and your liver can get stagnant and not really move through very well. And that's why we wind up getting gallstones. That's why we wind up getting a lot of toxicity, is because we're not passing things and moving it through. That's one of our main detoxification pathways. But when you use castor oil on the body, it can stimulate the flow of those liquids. So bile is the main one that people usually use it for. So you put it over your right rib cage, and you can find videos online for how to do this, but you saturate some unbleached flannel. Like if you go to Whole Foods, you can buy all of the castor oil things in one area. Like you buy the castor oil, the flannel, you adhere the flannel that is just kind of soaked in castor oil onto the desired area. So over your liver, over like your stomach, or like the reproductive organ area. And you wrap yourself up in a towel and you apply heat to it. So you put a heating pad on, or like a hot water pad on there, and then you just lay there for 15 minutes to an hour. I do fine with an hour. When I was seeing clients one-on-one in the beginning, I would tell them to do 15 minutes, 30 minutes, work up to an hour, and you can hear gurgling and you can physically feel things start to move. So it's really cool to hear that gurgling. It's like, what's going on? Like that's literally your bile and like your blood and like all of these gastric juices like loosening up and being like, okay, guys, like, let's go. Let's start to do stuff. And some people will get detox reactions from that. So if you are dealing with some sort of metals or stuff like that, you want to make sure that your doctor okays that for the time that you are doing it. But I find it to be really gentle. So I really like those. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of messy, but
I mean, that's cool though. I want to hear my gastric juices gurgling.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, people should definitely look those up. I think that those are really, really interesting. I want to get back to diet for a second, because one thing with Hashimoto's that I think is super controversial in the space is the topic of carbohydrates. We have some people who are saying when it comes to thyroid, you need to make sure you're getting plenty of carbs. Then we have other people saying when you have this issue, you need to cut all your carbs. And I feel like it's very polarizing. I'm curious what your opinion and what your experience has been regarding carbohydrates and, dealing with Hashimoto's and with clients.
Yeah, I'm glad that you asked this question because it is so huge right now. Keto is huge. And then on the other opposite end, this like high carb vegan lifestyle is huge. And personally, I don't really agree with either of those extreme cases. What I believe is that with Hashimoto's, you really should be controlling your blood sugar. You should be doing things to make sure that you are getting the majority of your energy from more high fat leaning diet, you having lower starch carbs, but having zero carbohydrates. I think that keto and healing with that lifestyle, it can be really therapeutic and it can be really healing, but it does kind of scare me to see this trend of permanent ketosis. I think that can be really damaging for women that are dealing with these hormonal issues, because in the beginning it can be really healing and great long term. But I'll even, break that down of saying like the autoimmune protocol, like that was really great and healing for me in the beginning. But if I kept doing that forever and ever, like I was missing out. I had nutrients that I was missing out on. Like I add in, egg yolks and certain nuts and seeds that have all of these nutrients that I was missing doing that. And it was really great and healing in the beginning, but it's not meant to last forever. Like we're not supposed to be in nature, like nobody is in this just constant state of always high carb and like always high fat. One person that I really like who it is more pro keto, and I'm not anti keto, but I am more pro what she thinks about keto. So Terry Walls, who does the Walls protocol, she's really brilliant. She does keto seasonally. So she will be more keto in the winter where there just aren't as many opportunities for more sugary fruits and vegetables and things like that. And then she'll talk about cycling off of it in the summer. And that's more how I see a more healing diet taking place. I know that everybody's different, but if I'm working with somebody one-on-one, I would not say to do this like permanent high carb or permanent low carb, high fat thing, cycling with, okay, like, yes, high fat is really healing. And in the beginning, when you're trying to control your blood sugar, it's wonderful to maybe do keto, maybe do like a high fat thing and just control that blood sugar so you're not constantly on that blood sugar roller coaster, but then never doing anything where you have sweet potatoes or plantain or just like some apples and berries. Always avoiding that is not any better for your hormones,
And over time, like in my opinion, I believe that if you stay keto for too long, your body may, I don't want to say like forget, but kind of forget how to process carbohydrates after a while. Like saying it's really great in the beginning for healing your blood sugar, but if you're doing keto for like years, what's going to happen if one day you decide you just want to start eating carbohydrates again? Your body doesn't really know what to do with all the starchy carbohydrates.
It's like reverse insulin resistance.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what happened to me. Like it creates insulin resistance, and it messes up your leptin, in my opinion, long term. But I mean, I think it's also interesting because like what people consider low carb now is like somebody can say, oh, eat a high fat, low carb diet. And that means something totally different to everybody, because people hear, oh, eat low carb to balance my blood sugar. And then they cut out all starches. And so like when you're saying like, eat something that's higher in fat, lower in carbohydrates to help balance out your blood sugar, like what does that mean to you? Like what does a lower carbohydrate diet mean to you when you say that?
It's so hard because it varies for everyone. Generally, I would say, it's really hard. I would say focusing on not having like the majority of your vegetables being high starch. So making sure that if you're kind of the equivalent of just having like one sweet potato to like half a sweet potato a day, something like that, like not having a sweet potato at every single meal, and then having most of your nutrition coming from lower starch vegetables and healthy fats and proteins. And then just not always going right to the really starchy carbs, but also looking at things like winter squash, so like butternut squash, acorn squash, things like that.
Did you ever try keto?
I've never tried keto, and I feel like I'm always afraid to be like, I'm anti-keto, because I'm not. I'm just not, pro permanent keto, but I've never tried it, mostly just because I have all those gallbladder issues that I'm pretty sure that I do have gallstones, and that's a whole other conversation. Gallbladder flushes, which I'm also against, but I've never been keto. And it's the gallbladder thing, and I'm sure that people can come back and be like, no, but it's great for you. It intuitively, like, I just don't want to do it.
Okay.
There's nothing in my body that's telling me like that I want to do it. That doesn't mean like a year from now that I'll want to do it, but I won't stay on it every day forever for the rest of my life, you know?
Yeah, I love that you're saying that, because I think people just are so out of touch with what their bodies need, you know, and like listen, like you're saying, like, I just don't want to do it intuitively, and no one else thinks like that. Everybody's just looking outside of themselves for someone to tell them what to do, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, even they hear something like on a podcast, like we've had people say this about our show before. They've heard somebody on a podcast talk about a diet or whatever and how well it worked for them. And it sounds so like persuasive almost, and like it's going to work for them. And then they just try it. But like in their gut, they know that it's not actually something.
It's not going to work. Yeah.
Like for me, okay, just personal experience. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. I don't do well on a ketogenic diet, like just a very low carb diet. I don't do well on it. And then we went to the NTA conference and we listened to like a keto panel. And I was talking to Christina about this after we were done with this keto panel. I was like, oh my God, they made this sound so great. Like, I think this could really help me.
Yeah.
And
I
was
was like,
why?
Yeah. I was like, no.
She was like, why? Why do you think that would help? You've already done that. And I'm like, oh wait, you're right. So there's a lot of like persuasion as well that like goes into this stuff.
For sure. And yeah, I want the overall message from me to be here that I'm not anti keto or even anti, like you hear people doing these all, you know, vegetable based diets, even for just like a short term. And like, that could be fine for some people. Everybody's so different. Just like I talked about, nightshades work for some people and not for other people. But I think that these polarizing, like, this is the only way to do it. Everybody with autoimmunity or Hashimoto's should only be doing this thing. That doesn't exist. I don't believe that.
Yeah. Preach it, girl. Love it. Last thing, I know we're like kind of running out of time, but I really want to touch on this because when you're talking about the different things that can sort of trigger autoimmunity, I really want to touch on the stress factor for a minute, because I think this is something so overlooked, because no one wants to address the stress. Like, it's easy for us to take supplements. It's honestly easier to change your diet than it is to address the stress. And I want to know, like, what was that like for you? Like, what did you do to address the stress factor to, you know, keep the Hashimoto's gone?
It's hard because that's one of those things that everybody's always going to be working on, but, it's never going to go away. But changing how you look at stress is a huge one. So like I talked about earlier, of not constantly feeling sorry for myself was a huge thing. But honestly, I am one of those people that changed my lifestyle a lot, like really focused on changing my lifestyle. And people constantly think that they can't do this. And I felt like that in the beginning of like, oh, I'll just never be able to have like a lifestyle and like a career and a life that I love. Like I always thought that I was going to be working in an office, like at a job that I really didn't like. And I was always going to be in a relationship where somebody didn't believe me. I was always going to, you know, I just wasn't ever going to have like a life that just didn't constantly stress me out to a toxic level, because I was always living in toxic situations. But then I had to turn around and tell myself, like, no, I can find somebody to be with that does believe me and does support me. I can actually like find my dream job. Like, it's not out there, so I'm just going to create it. And like, it's not to say that I don't work and that I don't have stress in my life. Like, I do, but I think it's so huge for people to channel their energy into just going for what they want, like going for their passions, because it makes the stress so much easier. You know, I'm sure that you guys can relate to that a lot.
I think you just
Absolutely.
got to the actual like root of the problem there. I think even stress when in the health space, when people are talking about stress, I still feel like it's a little bit brushed over and it's still a little bit surface level. People are like, oh, just quit your job. Oh, just sleep more. Oh, just take this adaptogenic herb and like, it's really going to help
CBD
with your
oil.
stress. Yeah. CBD oil, just do some meditations every now and then. Yes. All of those things can help, but the true core of stress comes from the way that you think about yourself and the way that you think about your life. And what you were just saying, like, I had to stop feeling sorry for myself. I had to stop believing that my relationships were going to be crappy. I had to stop believing that I had to hate my job. You have to change your beliefs at the core, and then stress melts away, because once you change that belief into, I can have this, I can have that, it's no longer an issue. You know what I mean? It's the stress is way less significant because you actually have a solid foundational belief and like happiness that everything's going to work out.
Yeah. 100%.
Can I also just say, like, it is so weird for me to think about you doing CrossFit because I feel like you're way too
Right.
like calm and collected to like do CrossFit. Like that just doesn't
like
make sense
super
to
chill.
me. Yeah.
I was not good at it. Me and Daniel both, like, we're both very just like,
Did Daniel do
chill
it?
people. Daniel did it too.
No way. Oh my God. It's harder for me to imagine that.
Him doing it. Yeah. It's funny because he's a really good runner, and like all those CrossFit guys, you know, they're just like really built and like they're not really great runners. And he would just like run circles around them. And like all these huge dudes would just be like panning, like, dude, you're really fast. It's like, yeah. But like I wasn't good at anything in there, and it just was not my strength. So yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, you are very, like, honestly, I think your story is so inspiring. I don't think you realize how inspiring it is. And like, I admire everything that you've gone through and overcome and all the work you're putting out. You're putting out such amazing content, helping so many different people. And like your job right now, like you've created, you know, I know you're like kind of, you have your dream job, but you work your butt off, like, and you do a lot, and you have this incredible gut health program out now, and your recipes are amazing. And wait, also while you were talking, are you the one who made the Paleo Three Musketeers?
No.
That wasn't you?
She's like, dang it, that wasn't me.
Well, you should. Someone did that. And that's what, when you were talking about how you used to eat
that?
Three Musketeers, I was like, was that you? Because I've seen that before.
I made crispy, these like Chick-fil-A nuggets.
Yes,
So
those.
I do fast food
I'm into
stuff.
that.
I did like Chick-fil-A nuggets, and this weekend I did like a Chipotle burrito bowl. Yeah, I did this weekend it was also like loaded tater tots, like sweet potato tater tots. So I'm into that fast food.
Yeah, everyone check out Michelle's website to get all of her yummy recipes. They're amazing. Can you tell everybody where they can find all of your stuff?
Yeah. So I'm at unboundwellness.com, and I'm there pretty much everything. So Instagram, Facebook, you'll find me mostly over on Instagram stories, Unbound Wellness. And I have my own podcast, the Unbound Healing podcast. So
where did the name, where did the name Unbound Wellness come from?
Oh my gosh. It came out of, I'm so desperate to launch this blog. I think this sounds like a good thing. And every time I say it, I'm like, what does that even mean? But
I love that.
That's where it came from. Like I struggled for so long. I was like, I wanted to be like, be well, Michelle. Or like I did. Like I had idea. I had no idea. And then I just put that out there. I was like, whatever, that's it.
I love it. I love it.
There now. That's it.
That's
where it came from.
That's how I felt about Addicted to Lovely. I was like, I don't know what this means, but it's happening. So
it's happening.
It's
not
fine.
a good copywriter. Yeah. So that's it. That's it there. So yeah. And you can find Kara and I
was just about to say that. That's so funny. Also, shameless plug.
Yeah, no, this is the perfect time to talk about it. Kara and I are going to be doing 3 live events here in Dallas, Texas at Brewed and Pressed.
Yes.
We're going to be doing a whole series on healing your body. So we're going to be doing one on June 3rd. When is this episode going to come out, by the way?
In a couple weeks-ish.
Yeah, in a couple weeks.
So
like 2 weeks, something like that.
So it'll be June 3rd and then June 10th. And then it's June like 24th, like the Sunday after Father's Day. And they're all at 8 p.m. Brewed and Pressed downtown. And the first one is on healing with nutrition. That one's free. The next one is on healing the gut. And the last one is about healing the adrenals. And the second 2 tickets are $20 for that. But we would love to see you guys at any one of those.
Yay! I'm freaking excited. I'm pumped. Dallas is desperate for events like this. So if you agree with that, please come. I want to see your face.
Yes. Show your support, and it'll just mean that more things like this will start to happen.
Yay. Okay. Well, this has been freaking fabulous. It's always a pleasure talking with you, and I feel honored to be your friend. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast. Everybody, please go check her out if you haven't already. She has great content and is just a really cool human being. So thanks, Michelle, and we will talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.